Hello! Welcome back to my channel. This is officially the second video I've ever made intentionally besides opera videos. And today I want to talk about the moving goalposts of having success in an MLM business. Have you ever attended a business opportunity presentation from an MLM rep? These can be Zoom calls, three-way calls, one-on-one interactions, sometimes in person. They used to do them in restaurants and things like that. In these presentations, you'll hear stories from current MLM reps and their leaders in order to convince you to join their team so that you can be a millionaire as well. Hi, I'm Bethany. I'm an opera singer, a makeup artist, and a former MLM rep and a former personal development junkie who is now debunking all the crap I spent way too much money on so you won't make the same mistakes that I did. Please subscribe if you want me to continue making content and maybe do things like buy a real mic and get good at editing videos and buy a real camera instead of using my computer. But I took Cece Suarez's advice to just start doing it instead of overthinking it. So I'm working with what I have now, and if I keep enjoying doing this and I find that I have more to say, which I actually have 2 more sections of this video, this topic planned out, and another couple ideas on videos debunking manifestation. So I definitely have at least 4 more videos that I'm planning to record and release. So I guess I'm gonna keep doing this. So what are some of the things that you're likely to hear at an MLM business opportunity presentation? First, usually you're gonna hear a sob story, how the rep was at their lowest point and then they found this business and it changed everything. And now they're doing great and they have all this money and they have all this time freedom and they are just so altruistic that they wanna share this with you because they could not keep it to themselves. So they usually emphasize that in this day and age, the product pack, the buy-in, the costs of starting this business are so low because nowadays people are more aware of how MLMs used to be, and people already have their defenses up against things like buying a big inventory package. So a lot of the MLM companies are moving to a structure where you don't have to have inventory and it's all online. So their reps will emphasize that you only have to buy this pack, which is around $200, $150, maybe up to $300, but it's all products you're going to use anyway, and you have to know the product to be able to sell it. And you only need 3 or 4 customers to make that back and start turning a profit. This is the first thing that I want to talk about, how the goalposts move from what you're introduced to in these business opportunity calls or meetings or whatever to what it's actually like being in the MLM, especially if you start to climb through the ranks like I did. So I was initially going to make one video about how the goalposts move in so many different areas. I was going to talk about the time freedom, and I was going to talk about the community aspect and the upline mentorship, but I got so much material just on how much money you have to spend that that's what this video is going to be about, and the other ones will be their own videos. What they don't tell you when you are signed up and you're trying to build a business is that, yes, that initial buy-in might not be that much. And also I don't want to downplay it because $200, $150 is still a lot. It was a lot for me when I got started. So I was definitely in that paycheck to paycheck place, which was part of why I was vulnerable to an MLM. But then there are gonna be all these other costs that come along with the MLM that are not covered. Most of them do have some type of business service fee. The one I was in, it was $15.95. And the coaches would emphasize that, they called us coaches, now they call them partners. The reps would emphasize that this is such a better deal than having your own business because for $15.95 a month, you get all of these things. You basically get a business in a box and you don't have to deal with all the other things that business owners have to deal with. And while that may be true, there are also so many costs that you don't realize until you're in it. So the first thing I want to talk about is the company events, which every MLM has these company events. The first one is going to be your annual big convention. This is one that anybody can go to. You have to buy your ticket. That's the first cost. They're going to be anywhere from $150 to $300 just to get access to this convention. It's going to be framed as an investment in your business, and you have to be there. Anyone who takes their business seriously has to be there. In my MLM, if you're buying that ticket at $150, it's because you're at the convention and it just ended, and they've done a cheap special for next year if you buy right now. And that is a limited time, and it is non-refundable. So if you have something come up within the following year, like a friend gets engaged and they set their wedding date for that weekend, or you have a family reunion, or someone in your family has a golden wedding anniversary party, or you yourself get pregnant and that's your due date, or sometime around then, or you have to be put on bed rest because you can't travel, or you have a loss in your family, which could happen the week before, and then you have the funeral that weekend. These are all things that are more important than your MLM, and then you're just out that $150. So that price is a gamble because it's non-refundable, non-transferable. It was for me. So even if you can't go and you want someone on your team to be able to go and they could buy the ticket from you, you can't do that. So that's why it's so cheap. You have to pay more if you want to be able to change your plans and not go or allow someone else to go in your place. Do you see how I started writing all of this out for hidden costs? And it all started coming back to me, and this got way too long to do all 3 topics in one video. You also have to get yourself there, whether that is buying a plane ticket if the city they're hosting it in happens to be close to you. For my MLM, even though we operate in the US, Canada, the UK, and France, as of right now, I think those are the only countries. I don't think they've opened in another country yet. They always host the annual convention in the US. For me, I did have to fly 1 year. 1 year only I had to fly. The other years that I attended, luckily, were within driving distance for me. I did have to pay for gas. A lot of people spent more money on flights. People from Canada, people from the UK, people from France obviously had very expensive flights if they wanted to get there. And they only had a mini version of it in French or Spanish for the main event. The main event was all in English. And then you have to pay for your hotel. None of the hotels are provided unless you're super, super highly ranked. And then even then, I think that they still have to pay for it. They just get access first to the group rate, which isn't a very good group rate. Every year that I went, we did Airbnbs as a team so we could all split the cost. But you have to pay for all that yourself. You have to buy all your own groceries, all your own meals. Even if you are a part of an MLM that has supplements, at least in my case, there would be kind of like a bar where you could get those supplements, but it was $6, which when we would sell our shake supplement, we would show how it's only $4 per serving when you break it down. So they were even charging us more than the retail price to get a single serving of the shake. And there is a shopping center. So whatever new products get launched at the convention, which everyone freaks out about, you are then going to go to the shopping center and buy them so you can try them right away. You can create content for your Instagram, for your Snapchat. Chat's not a thing anymore. Is it? Is Snapchat still a thing? TikTok. TikTok is a thing. So you can create TikToks and Reels, Facebook if you still post there, so you can start trying it right away. So you've at least had it before you start selling it to your customers, but you're basically selling it to your customers right away. And then you're gonna buy t-shirts, sweatshirts, all sorts of merch there. None of it is discounted. It's all very expensive. And I forgot to mention Ubers at the convention. At the annual convention, you are gonna be taking Ubers and Lyfts a lot, and the prices are surging because everyone is leaving their hotel or Airbnb and going to the convention center at the same time and leaving the convention center at the same time. And if you're in a city that doesn't have as much public transportation, like Indianapolis or New Orleans, then you have to pay out the nose I've paid $50 for an 8-minute Lyft ride at these conventions. It is wild. So that's all for the annual event. You may have some kind of free thing that is a treat that they give you if you qualify for it. If you hit certain sales or recruiting benchmarks, then you'll get treated to a special party that might have some food provided. Those overall were disappointing for me every time, and the food was not that great, and there wasn't very much of it provided. I think the year we were in New Orleans, there was like a food truck that did beignets, and you just got like one little serving of beignets, and that was it. You can eat really well in New Orleans, but you gotta go out and pay for it at a restaurant. So New Orleans was my favorite year because it's such a great city, but that was also the year that my credit card took the biggest hit because I was spending so much money on food and shopping there. That's just the annual convention. That can set you back $1,000 or more, all told, with the cost of the ticket, housing, food, and then all the stuff that you're gonna buy there. So then you have also quarterly live events or monthly. Usually most MLMs have them at least once a quarter where they have them all over the country or however many countries they're in. And you do still have to buy a ticket to that because your local coalition leaders in your area are putting that on, and they've rented out a hotel ballroom or something. So sometimes it's $50 and you have to get up on a Saturday morning and drive out to the suburbs. There's people there sharing their coach story, some personal development person, maybe someone from the company. For us, some of the trainers from the fitness programs or someone from corporate will be there. And these, again, your upline will pressure you to go to all of these. If you take your business seriously, you go to these and you bring people on your team because you're a leader, and you invite friends who aren't on your team so that they will sign up. So I definitely brought people who were not enrolled in my MLM yet to try to convince them to enroll in my MLM. And one year that I brought guests, it was so embarrassing because they had some of the famous people, and there were these lines to take pictures with them, and we basically were in line for 2 hours before any of the stuff got started. We ate all our snacks, we were so hungry, and then we had to sit through another 2 or 3 hours of stuff that was happening there and a group workout, and we were all just exhausted and so hungry, and I was just so embarrassed, apologizing to my guests because, and they did not join my MLM, but it was something that I paid for and that I picked them up and dropped them off, and it did not pay off for me. So there's an immense amount of pressure to attend every single one of these events. And I'm also an opera singer. One time I missed this quarterly event because I was competing in an opera competition. The hammer was brought down on me. I was shamed for missing this event, but I participated in an opera contest and I won $1,000. So I got into the MLM initially so that I would have the time flexibility to pursue my opera career, my actual dream. And I was shamed for not taking this seriously and not going to that event, which are often not a big deal. They don't really do anything for you for your business. Then another hidden cost is the trips. You see MLM reps posting about these trips all the time, showing that they won an all expenses paid trip. That is a downright lie. I'm going to tell you exactly how much those trips cost. This is how it went in my MLM, and someone from another MLM, it might be different, but even if they are still in the MLM working, they're probably not going to tell you the whole truth. But this is how it worked in my MLM. So the first thing you have to do is you have to put down a $300 non-refundable deposit. That deposit is for your taxes. Some companies, they give it to you as income later on your 1099, which can be worse because then you're not expecting it and you have to pay taxes on it. But at least for us, you pay the taxes up front. The problem was that it is non-refundable and you're paying it a year in advance. So right now, I sign up, actually it would be in January. So in January, say I signed up for the 2024 trip. I put down my $300 deposit. That's gonna cover the taxes. But then what I have to do is I have to spend the rest of the year earning that trip. So my sales, this is how it worked in my MLM all the time. You earn points every month based on how many people you can get to purchase a product pack. And if you hit Success Club, then you continue to qualify for this trip. Every month you get a certain amount of points, you hit Success Club, you continue to qualify for the trip. You have to hit a certain amount of points each quarter to stay on the trip. Every quarter, you've earned enough points, you stay on the trip, yay. You don't earn enough points, you get kicked off the trip. Even if you had some kind of crisis between January and March where you couldn't work your business for a month, you don't earn enough points, you don't get the chance to try and earn more points to make up for it in the next quarter. You just get kicked off the trip. Someone from the wait list gets to take your spot, but you don't get that $300 back. And that $300 is supposed to be for taxes. So now you've paid taxes on a trip that you didn't even earn. The second thing is that those points that I mentioned, they translate into trip dollars. So each point is $5 or $10 depending on how many points you get. It's a whole thing. You earn your points throughout the year. They translate to dollars. You make $1,200 in points. You've earned the entire cost of your trip. You make $1,000 in points. You have to pay the other $200. Not only do you have to pay your $300 to get on the trip, to pay for the taxes, it's not refunded if you can't go on the trip. Either you get kicked off or maybe, again, one of those life events that I mentioned in the previous section comes up. Too bad, you're just out the $300. Same if you had to make a payment, because every quarter, if you didn't earn enough points to cover the cost of that quarter's payment, you have to pay the remainder. So every quarter you have to earn $300 in points to cover the cost. It's less to stay on the trip. You won't get kicked off, but if you're in between getting kicked off and how much it costs, you have to pay the extra. And that's also non-refundable. Let's say you earned everything, your trip is covered. As I did, I was lucky enough that I didn't have to, or I was good enough at sales and lucky. Luck does play a part in your success in an MLM. I always earned the full cost of my trip, but I still always had to pay the $300. Then you have to fly yourself to wherever it is, Dominican Republic, Mexico, or wherever. And you also have to pay for your ground transportation to the resort. That is not covered. So $400 round trip for flights, $40, $50 each way for ground transportation. And then while you're at the resort, you have to pay all gratuities. So you get a massage, you go on an excursion, anything like that, it gets added to your bill at the end that you have to pay. So it's not all inclusive, it's not all paid. And when you work in a real corporate America job, the types of jobs that MLM people like to all over, you realize that when someone in a sales position earns a work trip, everything really is paid for. So it's pretty wild, but there are lots of extra costs that go into earning those trips. And if you can't get your flights to be the right days, which are usually high travel days, then you'd have to pay for an Airbnb or an extra night at a hotel, and then all the food that goes along with that and the transportation from that Airbnb or hotel to the MLM's resort that they've chosen. That adds up. And if they've chosen a cruise that year, that gives you an even tighter time. More people have to add an extra day or on either end or on both ends to make it work, because you have to be boarding the ship at a certain time. So a lot of people will book their flights to land the day before in case they get delayed or something. So then you have to pay for that hotel and everything too. So these are a lot of things that you have to pay for. If you get into the leadership ranks, you will qualify for additional retreats that are similar to the annual convention, but only for people at your rank. These are less coming out of your pocket than the annual convention, but still there are going to be costs associated. And I've gone to 2 of these retreats. One that I qualified for myself, one that I got to come as the guest of my upline because she qualified as the higher rank, but I qualified as the rank that could come as a guest. It's a whole thing. You earn the trip, so you don't have to pay for a ticket to this one, but you do still have to pay for your flight to get there. If I'm remembering correctly, I don't still have all the information, but I think some of the meals were covered, at least lunch every day. There was maybe a breakfast after the group workout that was covered, but we definitely went out to eat a couple of times. There were dinners that weren't covered. And then at the even higher ranking, I still had to pay for my flight. 4 meals were covered at that. And it was in Vegas, so they did pay for a show. But I think we had to pay for all of our own dinners. And then there will be teams that put on their own retreats. So these are not company sponsored, but your upline hosts a leadership retreat for everyone that hit a certain rank. And these I should have just said this from the top. I always had to pay for my own flights to everything. You're always gonna have to pay for your flights, your gas, whatever it is. The retreats would always be where my upline or her upline, where they lived. So they never had to pay for any flights. I guess they were treating us to the Airbnb. They did pay for the Airbnb. They did occasionally pay for a meal. But we did go grocery shopping. We did buy groceries for the weekend or the long weekend, 4 days, however long it was. I remember paying for meals out. I remember paying for groceries. We would go shopping and you'd want to participate in that. A lot of times they were places that were out of my budget, but a lot of the people who were highly ranked in MLMs were moms, stay-at-home moms whose husbands made a great deal of money, and they could afford places like this even before they joined the MLM. I often felt like a big old loser at those events because my uplines were making a ton of money because they were highly ranked. They had a ton of people under them, and even people lower ranked had wealthy husbands that supported them. There were never any men at any of these events. And so I was kind of the odd man out. I was the type of person that while I was highly successful in MLM terms, I didn't have any other income coming in from any steady income. I had opera gig, but I didn't have a steady 9-to-5 multiple 6-figure husband supporting me. So I felt it more keenly that I couldn't afford some of these things, and I would have a little bit of a panic attack when we would all agree to eat at this restaurant with $30 plates and $20 cocktails because I literally couldn't afford it. And it was like that episode of Friends where Phoebe, Joey, and Rachel are all eating a tiny little salad at the restaurant because they don't make as much money as Ross and Monica and Chandler. That was how I felt in those situations. Let's take a pause. Everyone take a deep breath. Those were just the events. Those are just the retreats. Do you see why I had to break up this video into 3? Now we're gonna get into the personal development. One thing that you have to do, this is a vital behavior of every MLM, is personal development. This is so that they can help you brainwash yourself to believe that you are capable of anything, and then also if you don't have the success you want, it's your fault. You have to constantly be consuming personal development, and those goalposts are going to change. So at first they're going to be like, oh, I love these podcasts that are free. Our company does a weekly podcast or training or something, and we also have our team call. And so you think oh, this is personal development. Great, this is all free. I'm going to do this. But then they're like, no, you have to read this book, and then you have to read this book. You always have to be reading a book. You can't just be listening to free podcasts. You have to be reading this specific book. Oh, this book that just came out, everyone loves. And a lot of these books are not available at libraries, or you can request them, but you definitely get this pressure that you have to be listening to these things while you're getting ready for the day or driving because you want to utilize that time. Like you're not a lazy, good for nothing person that just listens to music in the car or listens to fun podcasts or something like that. You're an achiever. You're part of the group of people that you take your mindset seriously, and while they're all just like pouring trash into their brain, you are committed to becoming the best version of yourself. So I subscribed to Audible because it was just so much easier and convenient. I could get a new book every month that everybody was listening to. I could stay at the top and be always, filling my mind with overachiever things rather than other people are poor because they just read romance novels, but you're rich because you read Grant Cardone and Tony Robbins. I'm going to do a video about how much I hate Tony Robbins sometime, but that's for another day. So you've been doing all this personal development and yet you're still stuck in your business. You're still having trouble recruiting. You're having trouble recruiting business builders because that's where the real success lies, is not just recruiting, but recruiting people who recruit. So you're stuck, you can't get to the next level, and then your coach tells you, your upline tells you, well, all the top coaches have gone to a Tony Robbins event, and those are like $1,200, or they've done a Josh Coates course, or they've done Brad Bizjack's program, or I have a life coach. I have a life coach, a business coach that I meet with every week because that's what it takes to be at my level because I take it so seriously. The top people are always investing in their mindset. You now only need to do that. And then that'll be the breakthrough that you need to get success. And it's just like suddenly these investments just get more and more. And I'm going to majorly embarrass myself here. I paid for 3 major programs. I did Brad Bizjack's Appreciation Academy. I did Josh Coates. I did several with Josh Coates. I did a less expensive one, and then I forget which one it was, but I know I paid $1,200. I think it was his Push for Elite program. And then I also did the Manifestation Babe Academy. All 3 of those I could do a deep dive on. I'm not going to now because that's not the point. Are all complete scams. And if you want to hear more about my experience with the Manifestation Babe Academy, you can go to Danielle Ryan's channel and watch my interview with her. I will link it below. I'm willing to embarrass myself because if you've fallen for this, like, it's okay, babe. I have too. I fell for it. And I think the reason that I kept investing in these mindset people is that I did have a certain amount of success with my MLM. I am one of the 1 or 2%, whatever the statistic is, that made money. I, however, only got so far. I never made multiple 6 figures. I never even made 6 figures. The highest I ever got was about $15K lower than the median annual income in the city where I live, which is a big city. It's more affordable, but it's still a big city. I always felt like I was doing better than I was because I was always at the top of my team. At one point, I was ranked 147 out of, I think at that time, there were either 400,000 or 500,000 reps in my MLM. So I was very highly ranked and I still did not hit the level of success that people project. And so at that point, because I had had a certain amount of success and I had hit my numbers, I had hit the goal that they set for us every month in a row for 5 years, which is crazy. If you worked a regular sales job and you hit your quota every month for 5 years, you would have been promoted several times and gotten tons of bonuses. But it's not really about sales. It's about recruiting people who recruit, who recruit, who recruit. Instead of blaming the structure, by that point, I had taken credit for the success. So I was also taking complete responsibility for not being more successful. And everyone says, like, once you decide, once you make that decision in your mindset, then that's going to unlock everything. You're just holding yourself back. Like, you're at $40,000, $50,000 a year because that's your success level in your brain. So you just need to like hack into your mind and raise that money success level, and then you'll be making millions. Once you think you're a millionaire, or you have the millionaire mindset or whatever, it's all it. And I promise to, look, now I have 2 more ideas for videos to talk about Brad Bizjack and Josh Coates, who are life coaches who specifically target MLM reps, because that's an infinite resource of customers who feel really desperate and are already primed to pour a bunch of money into investing in their mindset. I know I use these a lot. I use these a lot because there's so many MLM-y phrases that people use that I have to do it. I also invested in a program called Rule Your Business, which, let's circle back to that business in a box thing. The MLM reps will tell you in the opportunity call that you have a ready-made business in a box, and this business service fee that you're paying, it is going to cover all your business owner needs. That's not true. Rule Your Business was created by digital executive assistants that worked for high-ranking coach reps in my MLM, and they designed it and sell it to MLM reps. So it's specifically for people in MLMs that has funnel email to like send out your newsletter. You can auto schedule monthly newsletter. It has content for you to post in your customer groups. It has ways to run ads. It has all these business ownery things if you want to have a business online that actual business owners have online, all these things that you have to do. So I paid for that. MLM reps will also have the pro versions of MailChimp or ClickFunnels. What's the one where you can create your own course? So they'll often have Kajabi. They'll have Kajabi because they'll create a course on something that they're an expert in as like a funnel, a way to get people into their MLM, or they think they coach people on how to start a business because they're successful in an MLM. So they will also start side hustles as business coaches or life coaches. And then a lot of them at the time, so I do think that Meta, Facebook and Instagram have dampened MLM's ability to use ads. But in the heyday of the MLM that I was in, at least before the pandemic and into the pandemic, they were paying for ads too. Like a lot of the top reps were paying a lot of money for ads because they had a lot of money to spend. And so that way they could get in front of people, because they always need people. They need people to replace the people who are quitting. The only way to make money is to get people under people under people. And they also will have their husband and their mom signed up so they can put people under them. It's a whole thing. It's technically not allowed, but everybody does it. It's an open secret. You have to have the pro version of Zoom because you have to be able to host team calls and you can't get cut off at 40 minutes. So you have to have the pro version of Zoom. And then obviously everyone talks about this, but you have to purchase the products. So if your company has a consumable product, you're paying for that every month. When they launch new products, you're paying for that. The beginning of the end for me was when I didn't buy the bike. My fitness MLM partnered with a bike company so they could be competitive with Peloton. And I was like, I'm not into cycling. Like, that's just not for me. It's great if you love it. Awesome. Cycle. I had been to SoulCycle a few times, and I just wasn't into cycling, which is fine. Everybody has the type of workouts that they enjoy. So I didn't get on board with that launch. And I was just like, I live in the city. I don't have a place to keep a bike. If I move again, I haven't bought a house. I haven't bought a condo. I'm not permanent anywhere yet. So I didn't want to have to move it, and I didn't buy it. And I caught shade for that too. But yeah, this is all that I can think of at this point. And how long have I been talking? Over half an hour. By the time you watch this, that may be edited. But I've been talking for a half an hour about all the different hidden costs that they aren't going to tell you in that business opportunity call. And maybe the most costly one is trying to project lavish lifestyle. This is something that I might get flack for from MLM reps, and that's fine. I can see them coming into my comments and being like, no one made you buy something that you couldn't afford. No one made you, like buy a fancy trip or certain outfits or whatever it is. And that's true. But what people don't understand is the immense amount of pressure and the cult-like thinking in MLMs that make you do things and believe things that now I'm like, why did I ever believe that? Why did I ever think that? It's so clearly false. But I totally believed it at the time. And when you're in an MLM, you truly believe that success is just around the corner. Like those multiple six figures are just around the corner. That $1 million is just around the corner, and you see people hitting it, and you're also trained to completely disregard any type of societal advantages or privileges that that person might have, because those are just your limiting beliefs. That's you being negative. If you see someone achieving something, it doesn't mean there's less for you. It means you can do it too. Now, that might be true in certain areas in life. Like having a YouTube channel. This is my second video. I'm just trying it. I haven't even bought a microphone yet. And I see tons of anti-MLM creators. I see Danielle Ryan being successful in the personal development debunking space. I've thought about doing beauty tutorials. Obviously, that's a hugely saturated space. But I can still do it, and I could still be successful because you watching this, you can subscribe to as many people as you want. You can watch all of our content like all day. If you work from home and you are doing data entry, or maybe your job is boring and you're in a meeting and you've turned off your Zoom camera, you might be watching YouTubers all day. You can watch as many different people as you want creating this type of content. But in an MLM, there really is a zero-sum game. If I recruit someone, you can't recruit that person. And there is a finite number of people in the world. There's a finite number of people in the countries that your MLM operates in. There's a finite number of people who are 18 and over and who are not already in another MLM and who even might be interested at all. There is a limited number of people, and if someone recruits someone, that person's off the table. That's less for everybody else. A top coach running Instagram ads, paying $1,000 a week and recruiting 20 coaches a week is taking away literally from their downline's ability to have success. To be able to spend money on the things that I mentioned, like the businessy things, the ClickFunnels, the having an assistant. Some people have an assistant that like does all their inviting for them. So when that MLM rep slides into your DMs, that might not even be that MLM rep. It might be their assistant. And having rich friends. If you are a wealthier person, your friends are probably wealthier. Those are all advantages. I'm sorry, they just are. And of course, in an MLM, getting in early is an advantage. I'm not being a hater. I was mildly successful. But you're in this world where you have gaslit yourself into believing that those things aren't real, that there is an infinite number of people, that there's enough people for everyone to be successful, even though literally everyone can't be successful because there has to be someone on the bottom. There has to be. It's math, it's reality, but you gaslight yourself into thinking these things aren't true. And you're now in this headspace where you think, if you can just show people that this is real and that they can get rich doing it, then you can get rich because it's them. They will join you and they will recruit other people into it. So you show a more lavish lifestyle. And I paid for things that I couldn't afford, and I went into credit card debt at one point. I still didn't leave the MLM until 2 years after that. Got my stuff together. I stopped overspending, got out of credit card debt. I budgeted, and I would not pay for anything that was outside of my budget. So I didn't go to a couple of team retreats that I had gone to previously. I didn't spend money on things that I had previously spent money on, and my income started going down. There is a direct correlation between how much you're willing to fake it till you make it. I faked it, and I didn't. I mean, I guess I made it in terms of MLM statistics. Never reached the goals that I wanted to reach. And I spent a lot more money than I even realized until I sat down and started writing down all of the hidden costs. And suddenly I'm like, wow, how did I actually turn a profit? I had to have, because at one point I didn't have enough opera gigs and I was still paying all my bills and I wasn't in credit card debt anymore, but I just had a super cheap apartment and I lived very simply. Yeah, it's shocking when you actually sit down and you write down all the different ways that you are spending money on this MLM. So that was it for the unexpected costs, with the goalposts moving from what they tell you in the business opportunity call to what actually ends up being your reality in an MLM. The goalposts keep moving. In my next video, I'm going to talk about time freedom and how what you're told in the business opportunity call about being able to just do an hour a day or just do this in the nooks and crannies of your life, how those goalposts keep moving as well, and it ends up consuming all of your free time. But that is for another video, because this video is already way too long. And my shirt is the Catcade. It is a local cat rescue here in Chicago. It is where I adopted my cat, Dove, and I used to foster for them. They're amazing. So if you feel like donating to a cat rescue today and you've watched this video, head over to thecatcade.org and throw them a little money. They just got a new building and they've saved so many cats and they're really great people. So that's it for me today. And I hope you guys all have a great day. Bye.